To order Wednesday, June 19th, and it is a special meeting. Look, we need the record to show that Mayor Johnson is not with us today. He is out of town. Maybe before we start, a little explanation for anybody viewing the meeting. A little explanation would be in order. This is actually our first budget meeting for the 2014 budget period. And in this meeting, we're going to hear from groups who actually receive subsidy or financial assistance from the city, civic-minded groups, charitable groups, that type of thing. We'll be hearing a number of groups today for the next couple of hours, and we'll not make any decisions on the requests from the various groups today, but we do want to hear about their program and what their request amounts to. So with that, first item on our agenda is RSVP, and who is going to represent?
Hi everyone, I'm AJ Hitchcock and I'm the specialist here in Dickinson for RSVP Plus. And what RSVP Plus is your volunteer organization in town. We focus on meeting critical community needs through meaningful volunteer service. And that really is what we do. Since our inception, the inception of RSVP about 40 years ago, the focus was really on seniors, giving seniors who had retired from the workforce an opportunity to give back and feel like they were contributing. And 40 years later, we have now in North Dakota opened our doors up to all ages because we really want to encourage all ages to volunteer, and this gives them an opportunity to experience and get exposure to it, where a lot of younger people, it's just not part of the thinking anymore. And our office here in Dickinson serves the entire southwest North Dakota area, so we have 8 counties. A big picture of what we do, in 2012, over 200 volunteers from our office served 30,000 hours in 60 nonprofit agencies. I want to say that again, 200 volunteers, 30,000 hours, 60 nonprofit agencies. If you look at that just in hours, that would equate to 14 full-time people for the year of 2012 that basically couldn't be hired by other nonprofits or by the city or by whoever needed the assistance. That's what we provide. That's where we make a difference. Most of our funding is federal. We do receive, our federal funding requires a local match. So the city of Dickinson, we are asking for $25,000 for next year as we did this year. And the other match that we get is a Stark County Council on Aging, gives us about 5% of what you do. We are really trying to become financially independent. That is our goal. And to begin that journey, the 2 things that we do in this community, we have a fundraiser called Bags, Baubles, Bubbly, which this year we grossed about $15,000. Thanks in a small part to Clayton, who was a diva dude, and you can ask him about that later. And then the second thing we do, we were all tasked with creating an enterprise in our community, something that would benefit the community and generate revenue that would come back directly to RSVP Plus. So we opened Local Charm. We were in the T-Rex Mall a few years ago, and pretty much it was Pride of Dakota food products and everything and anything that anyone ever created. If you got a loom kit and you missed 13 stitches, by gosh, we would sell it for you in our store. When we lost that lease, we moved to an office downtown. We brought just the food products in because we didn't have room for anything else, and we opened up a back room to sell them out of our store. And we opened December of 2012 with Ladies' Night Out. And we had 50 people come through, 50 women, which was the year before that we hadn't had any exposure. So we were really happy with that. Then all the rumbling started about the downtown revitalization. And just personally, that got me excited. I had a ridiculously crazy first quarter this year, but a little 400 square foot shop came up in January, right across the street from Sticks and Twigs. It's 31 First Street West. And Christy Schwartz, who's also invested in seeing the downtown grow and bought that building, gave me first look because she knew about the store. And we jumped on it. And I got to tell you, people in the community helped out. The floors were pulled up. Our wood floors were donated, the labor was given to put them in. The paint was donated, labor was done to put the paint up. We pulled back the ceiling and discovered that the tin ceiling from the original place was still intact and beautiful, so three of us went in on a Saturday and pulled out all the ceiling, and we had these big old lights hanging down and wires. And then someone said, I have a warehouse full of beautiful old fixtures. He came in with his wife on a Saturday and pulled out all the remaining fixtures and put up 3 new fixtures. It's been an amazing community event just to get the place open. We also, along with being a store that features only Pride of Dakota products, and what we really hope to do is generate business downtown in the tourist season. I mean, my vision for our downtown is to see somebody who's going to Medora not feel comfortable driving past Dickinson without getting off the freeway and going to that amazing downtown area. So we feel like we're part of that. We want to be an anchor in that. We feature local Pride of Dakota artists and vendors. Right now, Alicia Whitman's paintings, Cooper Whitman's wife, are hanging in our shop, and they'll be there for a quarter, and then we'll bring in a new artist, feature a new opening and a new event. We have it's all volunteer run, so it's an opportunity for volunteers to serve. We also are working with DSU in creating, when we did our financial projections at Strom Center, the young intern was a university student who was so excited about what we were trying to do that he said, I'd like to volunteer. So he's my full-time volunteer. He's there, he's in China right now. But when he's in town, he's there Thursday, Friday nights, all day Saturdays. And we're working to create some internship opportunities with the students where they can either volunteer or intern. A business student who needs some practical behind-the-scenes hours. I mean, pretty much our goal is if the student volunteers come in and do a good job, the store does well. If the student volunteers come in and don't, I might lose my store. We want to give them a chance to be really accountable and have some hands-on opportunities. So between the store and the volunteer center, we just feel like our eyes are on the community and in making a difference in the community. We have 600 registered volunteers. 50% of them are under 55. Our ongoing work in the community, we're at the thrift store, we do friendly visiting, we help with immunizations. My volunteers are up at the Pioneer Museum greeting people. We have folks over at the TR Center transcribing TR's letters. We have exercise programs in town. We have foster grandparent program. And then this last year, out of the ordinary, things that are new that we've done, the biggest thing was the Amen Food Pantry has been, as you probably know, chugging along with their board, doing an average of 200 pounds of food a month is what they were giving out. And that's been going on for years. As of this year, their average per month of food going out the door is 6,500 pounds. So you can imagine that the board was getting a little bit overwhelmed at the volume of work to be done. So we took over, we collaborated with them, and now we are running the day-to-day operations in the pantry, and we've opened extra days, and we're supplying all the volunteers and the training and the paperwork and everything to make that run more smoothly. We also, last December, social services didn't have the infrastructure to help with the angel giving tree like they have in the past, and Salvation Army was not available to partner with them. So we helped them with that, and we provided all the volunteers that wrapped all of those gifts and the volunteers that gave them out. Again, we look for spots that we can make a difference in the community where there's a community need. And the final thing was, and this is interesting, this is growing, I was working with a social worker who works at the high school, and from her vantage point, she sees all the kids come in who are falling through the cracks because mom and dad came here to try for oil, couldn't make it work, left, and their high school seniors said, you know what, I'm not going, I want to finish my senior year here. They don't qualify for homeless assistance through the school district for rides to school because they're couch hopping, so they aren't technically homeless. But they were living maybe 2 or 3 miles away, walking to school, no coats. Who's prepared for this winter when you're from Florida? No way to get there. So we found we worked with them, we found a bus from a business that didn't use their bus in the morning hours, and we found a volunteer driver, and he drove around through the winter and picked these kids up and took them to high school. We didn't have a way to get them home. We were trying to partner with the school to do that, find parents and kids. And it really opened our eyes. My office started a coat drive because the kids were too, you're in high school, you're too proud to ask, but the need is there. You're coming to school in your flip-flops and your sweater. And so the press partnered with us, and we brought, I can't tell you how many coats, sweaters, hygiene items, and actually bicycles for kids to get to school were donated. So we're excited to see where that goes this year. We're excited to keep digging, and as the town grows, we just feel like there's more and more opportunity for us to make a difference, and we really appreciate your support.
Okay, well, thank you.
Any questions?
The only question I was going to ask, I think you answered, some local examples of what you're doing, but that list, you gave us, I think, 5, 6, 7 examples. But tell us the dollar request is, and what have you received from the city in the past?
$25,000 is what we have received in the past, and that's what we're asking for this year.
Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Hitchcock?
Ms. Hitchcock, your enthusiasm is contagious. I appreciate that. I'm curious if you have any engineers that want to volunteer for the city. We'd love to have them.
I did have a sheet metal worker come in yesterday asking if I had anything for her, but that's as close as I got. Sorry.
Little outside early.
Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, our next agenda item is the Dickinson City Band. Mr. Bob Keogh, I see you in the audience.
Well, for the benefit of AJ, before she leaves, that if she checks her records far enough back, and I mean far enough back in the 70s, I was president of the board.
Were you?
And so I don't know that we ever did anything as exciting as she's talking about. So, but anyway.
I'm on my way back to the office, and I was happy to react.
They probably threw those out. But really, it sounds like a great program, so send them money. Anyway, commissioners, folks, it's a pleasure to be here on behalf of the band, and I want to tell you something first of all. Richard Braun, Rich, you probably all know who he is from the college, hadn't played his baritone in 40 years. And of course, after he retired, he had more time, but the guy joined our city band, practices daily. His wife is so happy about that because keeps him busy, you know. But he really, truly enjoyed the opportunity to do something with his music that had been dormant. Now, I'll bet if I asked all of you, most of you played some instrument in high school. No. Shirley says no, but she's probably kidding. But many people do that, you know, participate in high school band or choir, and don't touch it again. Again, I was talking to AJ just a minute ago before she came in, and just by circumstance, she's talking about her son, who's back in Washington, but is finishing school and coming out here for the summer and going to decide what he's going to do. But he was so happy to know that there are city bands or community bands where after high school he can play his French horn. And that's one of the things that the city band over the years has done, is provide a place for people to play, for musicians who, you know, maybe they're not in the college band or whatever, but they can continue their love of music beyond high school, way into adult years, way into senior citizens years for that matter. And that's one of the things that we do, is provide that outlet. I mean, we have, I think at our last concert, I don't recognize any of you from the audience, but be that as it may, and we got a standing ovation, by the way. But we had kids as young as about 7, 8, 9 years old playing the percussion. A couple of Chris and Sandy T-Bird's kids, so the T-Birds have a little musical ability there. And we have older folks that are even older than I am in the band, so we don't discriminate at all by age. And we don't audition for those who are worried about how they sound, but we really have a good time. And I mean, you've read this stuff, I won't repeat it, but you know the city band has been around for a long time. What helped the levee played in past years, I really don't know. It's before my time, but when you look at the pictures, if you saw the display at the museum last year, we had a big city band, you know, in the past. And you know, ours isn't quite that big. We don't have those fancy uniforms right now. But we have about 20 to 30 band members, plus when we add the strings group to us, that's another 15 or so players. So our band is actually has more members than the college band right now. I mean, we are a much larger band, but we could use more. We have room for more players, in case any of you are wondering. But part of our issue has been that we scrape by. I mean, our revenues are, have been under $1,000, and we spend a little more than that, so we scrape by because we have no really good source of funding. Part of our problem has been over the years that we haven't always had a consistent director, and so and people come and go. So my wife is the current director, by the way, and then I think we'll renew her contract for the next year. I mean, she's been doing a pretty good job. But we are experimenting with incorporating the strings into our band. So we're we're the only symphony in town, you might say it that way. And it's causing us a little bit of growing pains because we have to incur more expenses. We have to figure out how we're going to do this. When you buy music, it's one thing to buy for a band. It's one thing to buy for a string group, but it's another to buy for combined. And we've been able to pirate music here and there from Trinity High School and so on, but we do have to buy once in a while, and then we have to buy for a combined group. It's going to be more expensive. So part of our need is to expand our own membership and participants, and to do a better job of advertising, promoting the band, and money helps. And we have some thoughts about, well, we have to pay we pay our directors a very small subsidy, but we anticipate now and then having somebody come in special to help us out. We have to pay them. We have guest performers occasionally. This last concert we had 2 of the college profs play solos and did it for nothing except for a small gift. But we would like to do more because the community band the city band is a big deal to many people, and provides that outlet for not only participating but listening to the music. So our request is rather modest by comparison to RSVP, but of course they do a lot of work on a day-to-day basis, and we don't do that. But we are asking for $3,300, and our request sets it out exactly how we're going to do with the money, and hopefully it will help us to continue as a band.
And I think, Mr. Keel, this is a new request. I don't think you've received funding from the city before.
We might be the only applicant that's ever received benefits of a tax levy, but you're right, we've not received a subsidy before. Actually, we applied for the wrong grant to begin with, and then we got on the right track, so we're here. But yes, it's a new thing.
Okay.
How many community events are you planning for 2013-14?
Well, we haven't got that far yet, I'm afraid to say. We do 2 concerts a year, essentially Christmas and spring. And we were trying to line up a group to participate in the parade this summer, but we just couldn't get it done in terms of numbers of people. I mean, personally, I'd like to see us plan for a band shell concert every summer, but I think you all know summer's a lot of trouble for many activities because of people going here and there and so forth. But I would anticipate that, well, and I don't know, the strings part, let me just say, the strings were actually a DSU invention. There's no other strings program in town. The college, university started it, and my wife has been the director of it. It's been a small deal. It was a class, and they're just stopping it. I mean, they're just cutting it off because they don't want to be bothered with the whole thing. And so it's no longer a class for credit, and she doesn't get paid for it from the college like she did a little bit at one time. So we're adopting them. We can still use the college facilities for rehearsals and all that, but the strings group by itself does some performances. They always go in the Christmas season and do several shows at Evergreen and the mall and different places like that, just mostly for entertain the folks, and they have in the past also had their own concerts, and they've incorporated some of the young students. Well, they were at the museum, when they had that display about the band. They've been there a couple times, but they also incorporate the young strings. There are students in town that are various heights that are taking lessons from individual instructors, some of our players, in fact. And so they have in the past incorporated those young people into some of the string concerts. Exactly what's going to happen to that, I don't know, because I'm not in charge of that. And my wife doesn't tell me everything. So I know there's some plans for, more than just our 2 concerts, but what they'll be, whether they'll be just strings or combined, I don't know. But I would like to see us, as a routine basis, have a summer concert. I know that in the past, since I've been in the band, and it's been off and on for a number of years, that we have done some summer concerts at the band shell. And I'm sure we're all excited to see what it looks like now that it's been renovated a little bit. But other than that, 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, something like that a year.
And these are free community events generally?
Yes, they're free. We do, when we remember, ask for a goodwill donation. And I can tell you, this last time I was looking around for a box to put out for the donations, and I couldn't find a box, so I took my trombone case, opened it up, and used that for the donations, and we did pretty well. But yeah, it's free.
Okay.
Bob, is it for all age groups? Your city band, is that all ages?
Well, to a degree. You got to have a little ability to play if you're going to be a elementary school person, and frankly, those kids in the percussion section are unique because of their family background. They've got that. They play in bands at very young ages, that T-Bird family. But for the most part, we've had occasionally junior high kids, high school, some college students, and then on up. I wouldn't want to guess how the age of our oldest performer, but yeah, it's just, and sometimes people come and find out they really can't do it. They just find the music is higher than they expected, perhaps. And we don't, just do softy stuff. This last concert was a challenging thing for all of us. And, we're not college level. We're not competing with the college band, but we try to do what we can. And, but yeah, it's theoretically all ages,
Any other questions for Mr. Keel?
Well, Bob, I got to say that my decision, or my influence here is made more difficult because we didn't get a rendition of a song from your trombone. So in the future, you might want to bring your trombone and show us a little bit of your talent.
I wouldn't want to ruin it, but the channel, the Consolidated people did film it. So I expect there's a film around somewhere. I've seen it myself, and that sounded pretty good. But but thank you anyway. If you think that's a condition, I'll do what I can to bring at least a group next time. Maybe we can, just instead of saying a single word, just play some numbers for you.
And I didn't play in high school. Not that I didn't want to, but when I went to high school, you had to pay to be in band. Being the third oldest of 8, we didn't have the money. So when I was 25, I bought my own piano and taught myself how to play.
All right.
Never too late,
think,
Shirley.
That's right.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
The city band is a good thing for our community to try to support. I really do. A little tip for you, our assistant city engineer, I understand, is a heck of a trumpet player. Okay?
Well, what's his name?
Nathan Peck.
Nathan. Let me write that down. I've been a pest over at the front desk here because Candace plays the clarinet, I found out. And every time I'd stop, it's Candace, rehearsal. She never showed.
Thanks very much, Bob.
But, so I will, it's my job to do a little recruiting, so thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, next we have on the agenda Sharon Kilzer, Theodore Roosevelt Symposium. Ms. Kilzer, you ready for us?
Yes. Good afternoon, Commissioner Jackson, fellow commissioners, and citizens of the City of Dickinson. My name is Sharon Kilzer. I'm the project manager for the Theodore Roosevelt Center at Dickinson State University. And I'm here today, first of all, to thank the City of Dickinson for its support for the Theodore Roosevelt Symposium over the past years. And I want to report on the fruits of that investment, which are significant. And I'll also, of course, request continued support at the same level of funding we've requested in the past, which is $20,000. As you know, this spring, the North Dakota State Legislature appropriated $12 million to build a home for the Theodore Roosevelt Center in our community. This vote of confidence on the part of the state recognizes the success and the growth of the Theodore Roosevelt Center over the past several years. And the city's support has been instrumental in that success. The support that the city has provided for this annual event has allowed us to provide a top-notch program which has become a premier event, not only for our community and region, but drawing visitors and guests from around the country. To review last year's symposium a little bit, for which the city's support was very helpful, our theme was Theodore Roosevelt, the progressive in the arena. This event marked the 100th anniversary of TR's 1912 run for the presidency. And while the majority of the participants last year were from North Dakota, and I'll address that in just a minute, we did have 11 other states represented. The scholars speaking at that event included Kathleen Dalton. She is a top-notch Roosevelt scholar. She's the author of the best one-volume biography of Theodore Roosevelt, and she also serves on the advisory board for our center. We're very proud to have her with us here again. Some of the participant evaluations last year, we always ask people what they learned or any comments they have. One of them wrote, "I'm sorry we couldn't stay in North Dakota longer." It was a great lineup of speakers and program. And another guest, commenting on the fact we had a speaker who talked about one of the other major figures in the progressive movement, Bob La Follette. This guest commented, "Humor, facts, and very interesting. It's good to hear from presenters who are not just TR fans." And so we do try to broaden our approach to attract people that are not just interested in Theodore Roosevelt, but other facets of his life and his era. So these are some of the results of our symposium. In addition to the economic return, obviously, of gathering these folks here in our community and the money they spend at our hotels and elsewhere, we are building goodwill and winning friends for Dickinson and for the region. And that's what your investment leads to. I want to take the opportunity, and my remarks are brief here, but if I could take the opportunity for just a moment, I want to introduce you to another project that the Theodore Roosevelt Center has been working on. Again, as we develop and grow and see what else we can contribute to this community and to the state. This spring, we developed what's called the Theodore Roosevelt Trail. This brochure is part of the North Dakota Tourism Program in the rest areas throughout the state this summer. We're encouraging people to discover Roosevelt's impact in North Dakota. And when most of us think about Roosevelt here, we think of him in Medora and the West. But his imprint on the state is actually much broader than that. Chase Lake, Stump Lake, Sully's Hill. There's a bronze in Old Main at NDSU. There's the State Rough Riders Gallery in Bismarck dedicated to TR. We don't often think about the impact of Roosevelt all across our state. Roosevelt Park and Roosevelt Zoo in Minot. There's a major bronze of Roosevelt there. So we're encouraging people to explore the state, but through Roosevelt. And if people go to all the sites, they get a little gift from us. In addition to this, we've developed a web exhibit that expands on more information about each site. Obviously, in a print piece, you can only put so much information. But on the website, we've added additional sites that are not in here and more information and photos and videos about the sites. So I'll leave these and you can enjoy those brochures. So to get back to our symposium this fall, the city is, again, helping us out and sponsoring. And our theme is Theodore Roosevelt and American Culture. We believe this is going to be a really fun event. The date is November 14th to 16th. And I have the save the date cards. So if you look just for a minute at the back of the card, we highlight the themes we're talking about and the speakers who will be here. I want to just point to a couple of those. Roosevelt and film is going to take the tack of kind of two pieces. The films made of TR, you would not think that there would be many of those probably, but there are actually several hundred. Not feature-length films, obviously. Short clips of Roosevelt, walking, speaking, those types of things. Those films are being digitized by the Library of Congress. I spoke with them yesterday, and we will have a deposit of those films in time for the symposium and be able to feature those, so you'll be able to see some of the film footage of TR. We also just had, yesterday, a request from NFL Films. They are working on a segment on Roosevelt and his influence on football, and in particular the development of the forward pass. And they were looking for some footage, so we're trying to help them out with that. So Roosevelt and film, that's one facet of it. But the other is films that have been made that include TR in some light since his death, and they sometimes color how we see Roosevelt. So, for instance, Arsenic and Old Lace. Gives you a little bit different picture of the man than might be true to reality. It's a little bit of a caricature. Another one would be the Wind and the Lion. So we're going to look at Roosevelt through both those lenses, both the films of him and subsequent film about him. So that'll be a fun one. The other one I would point to is TR and music. You'll see the speaker there, Dr. Beverly Everett, conductor of the Bismarck Mandan Symphony Orchestra, is talking about Roosevelt and music in the White House. But the other piece of that, as far as TR and music, is there was a significant amount of music written, composed for and in honor of Roosevelt. And we are friends with a private collector who has about 145 pieces of sheet music that were published either during Roosevelt's lifetime or shortly after his death. And among those is one about North Dakota, which is really lovely. We used it at the symposium a couple years ago. But we've digitized all of that music, and we're now, tomorrow, actually recording a selection of those pieces. And they will be performed, or the recording will be featured at the symposium this fall. So again, TR's place in American culture. These aren't the usual ways we think about Roosevelt, and that's why I think this is going to be a really interesting event. And again, the city's support has been really instrumental in making this possible. So our request for 2014, as we thought about a theme for next year, we basically realized we weren't finishing TR in American culture this year. We aren't able to have time this year to talk about Roosevelt and football and American sport. So that's, spills over into next year. TR and American political cartooning. It was at its height at that time, and he was a great subject for cartoonists. And so we'd love to talk about that. So we've got lots of pieces of this theme that we're not able to address this year, and so it's going to spill into 2014, and that's what your support would go to. So as I close my remarks, again, I want to express our really sincere thanks for the city's support. It has made all the difference in our being able to grow and to establish a reputation both in our community, in our state, and on the national level. And I would ask you to continue to support us. And I will entertain any questions you might have.
Thank you.
Sharon, for the
Questions?
symposium this year, you shouldn't have any trouble getting motel rooms, because I know that was an issue last.
No, and actually, I want to circle back to that. The city's support has been even more critical in the last couple of years, because it used to be people could come here and get in a hotel room for $70 a night. That's not the case. Last year, I believe our block of rooms, which we reserved 6 or 8 months in advance, maybe more, was I think $159 a night. Thankfully, that has moderated, and so our block this year is at $119, and it was much easier to negotiate with the hotel to get that block.
Good.
Sharon, our previous speaker said that they're in the need of sheet music. You happen to have some. Maybe they'd be a great addition
go.
to your agenda here and play
There you
at
go.
your event.
Get the city band involved. That would be fun, actually. I'll have to talk with Bob. Other questions?
Anything else? The symposium has been a great addition to Dickinson and Southwest North Dakota. We appreciate what you do.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here today. Okay. We're looking for Sunrise Youth Bureau Jerry, Mayor, Mr. Mayor.
Excuse me, had a cough. Commissioner Jackson, fellow commissioners, on behalf of the board of directors and the staff at the Sunrise Youth Bureau, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for the past support from the city of Dickinson to the Youth Bureau. Talk briefly a little bit, just real short, about what the Youth Bureau does and why we need the funding. Through collaborative efforts with the Southwest and Northwest District Juvenile Courts, we're able to continue to provide funding, diversion services to our youth. By receiving court funding, we can continue to provide these services. Through our diversion program, we are able to change their behavior. The youth pay consequences for the actions that they have committed and stay out of the juvenile justice system, thereby saving the taxpayers money. We see approximately 100 youth each year in our diversion program. We have a partnership with our local school districts where we are able to provide an out-of-school suspension program for our youth. By receiving school funding, our youth are able to spend their suspension time at the Youth Bureau, keep current on their homework, learn skills about what caused them to be suspended. And approximately 50 students are suspended each year from the local school districts in the area. Through the continual development of relationships with our local and regional schools, we are able to provide educational and prevention programs within the schools. Presentations are made from kindergarten through high school on subjects such as bullying, alcohol, drugs, self-esteem, school rules, and many more topics. By being able to teach these subjects to our youth, they are learning valuable skills that will prevent at-risk behavior in the future. Over 3,500 students are taught these skills in a typical school year. Through the positive connections with our local and area local law enforcement agencies, we are able to provide housing services for those youths that are brought in by the police or the sheriff. These youth are provided a safe place to stay until further arrangements can be made for them. By having this service available to our police and sheriff, they are able to know that they can drop them off at the Youth Bureau, regardless of the time of day, and return to their duties in a short time. Approximately 100 youth are housed at the Youth Bureau each year. Through cooperation with Community Action Partnership, we are able to have a Students Against Destructive Decisions, or SAD chapter, at Hagen Junior High and Dickinson High School. Funding received from Community Action for SAD is vital to the continued success of this program. SAD is designed to provide students with the best prevention tools to deal with the issues of underage drinking, drug use, impaired driving, and other destructive decisions. Right now, we have over 20 students part of our SAB chapters. I'm proud to say that the Youth Bureau is truly a community agency. With the funding support of not only the City of Dickinson, our county commissioners from all 8 counties we service provide funding, United Way of Dickinson, Community Action Partnership, social service agencies, the school districts, and our district courts, we are able to maintain our mission. By having all of these agencies banding together, we can continue to provide these essential services to the youth and their families in western North Dakota. So real brief, just a real short scenario, and that's what we do at the Youth Bureau, and we appreciate the funding we have in the past, and we hope that we will continue to receive funding from the city in the future. I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Jerry, how many employees do you have?
We have 3 full-time and about 10 part-time.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just for our listening audience here, $15,000 request, tell us what your total budget is for the year. What, in other words, approximately what percentage?
I think you're requesting 18,000.
Our total budget for 2013 was $177,278, and of that, $15,000 came from the city.
You're requesting 18,000.
This year, for 2014, yeah. A little
So
increase.
about 10%.
About 10%, that's correct.
Other questions for Mr. Mayor? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda is the Southwest Community Service and Restitution Program. I think I see Ms. Marasco in the audience. Welcome.
Thanks. Hi. Thank you for having me today. My name is Tony Marasco, and I am the Program Coordinator for Southwest Community Service and Restitution Program. I've been with this program for the last 11 years, and since '09, I've been running it by myself. There is no other employees. The program serves all of Southwest North Dakota, 8 counties covering 10,000 square miles, and our referrals come from District Court, Municipal Court, Juvenile Court, Sunrise Youth Bureau, and Pro and Probation. And also we do get some federal courts orders that I've been working on. I also administer court-ordered drug screening for the courts, and just this week alone, I got 15 of them in. Part of their bond, when they're bonded out, they have to come in for 2 times a week for drug testing, random drug testing. The program was started in 1994 as a nonprofit 501c3, and we've been in business now for 19 years. Some of the community benefits: it provides agencies with volunteer labor, reserves jail space for violent offenders, it saves taxpayers approximately $60 a day to incarcerate individuals that have committed misdemeanor offenses, involves the community in the justice system, and helps individuals recognize personal shortcomings. The offender benefits provide offenders the opportunity to make amends for crimes committed. We'd like to think that they have a chance to rehabilitate themselves, learn life and job skills with on-the-job leadership and mentoring, avail themselves of opportunities to help others, avoid incarceration, therefore they can continue with job and family obligations. We work a lot around jobs, and you know, right now no one can stand to lose a job, so we do work around their jobs and try to find a site that will fit them. We would like to think they achieve success by complying with the court order. And with the big boom that's been going on the last 3 and 4 years, I'm getting more and more orders from out of state. That's for drug testing and people that are on parole and probation that have to have drug testing done or have community service to do. So we've been really busy. I don't take too many days off. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for your past support of our program. Right now, due to federal and state grants, the only money that we have coming in is county, cities, and in August we get Department of Corrections. We get about $12,000 from them. Right now we're in pretty much dire straits. We're a little bit concerned about making it to August. Normally our budget we had for 2 people working was about $70,000. This year our budget was $54,783. Right now we're in a deficit of $6,275. So we would appreciate any support that you could offer. Is there any questions?
Tony, I know you arrange the community service. Do you do the drug testing too?
Yes.
You do that also?
Yes, I do everything in there.
When you get these requests from out of state to assist with the drug testing, do they reimburse you for that?
Anybody that comes into our office, if they have to do drug testing, they have to pay for the drug test. That's $25 a test. And if they do community service, it's a one-time fee of $50.
So as looking at your budget, is it possible for you to increase that fee for the drug testing?
Well, we just increased it about a year ago from 20 to 25. The problem we're having is so many of the offenders that come in. I mean, I've had them come in with baggies of change, $25 worth of nickels, dimes, pennies, quarters. Some of them have to come 3 times a week, some of them twice a week. We've had some that had to come every day. So $25 a day when they're not working is, you know, they have it one day and then they're out trying to borrow it for the next time. But we are having a board meeting on the 27th, and you know, I was thinking about bringing that up to at least $30 a day, or $30 a test.
Okay. Other questions?
So it's June and you're already short 7,000?
Right now in our checking account, we got $2,200 to get us through until August, and it's not going to work. I mean, we're really in dire straits right now. So we're just, most of the counties and the cities I sent letters to, they put us in their budget so that I don't have to travel, and that costs money for the gas and the traveling and taking time off from work. So they're really good about that.
So can they be billed back, or you have to have the money up front
For
the work you do for the county and the other areas?
Well, we don't pay, the money that they put aside for our organization, we don't pay that back to them. They're just, for the 8 counties and cities, they're sending people, offenders, to my office, so that's their fund, they help with the funding. And we used to get some state and government funding, but not anymore. Department of Corrections, we get about $12,000. That comes in August, $12,683.
Most people you're working with are MICs, right, or DUI?
Oh, no, it's domestic violence, it's drugs. Mostly right now, it's a lot of drugs. I'm working a federal one right now for embezzlement, weapons. We do get a lot of MIC, especially for the younger ones, but it's mostly, there's just so much drugs now. I've been here 11 years, and it seems like I'm seeing more and more of it.
What happens when population grows? What do you think you need for like an annual income in per month?
Well, in December, we were down to about 1,500 in our account, so I called all the counties, or wrote letters to all the counties and cities to see if they could release their funding to us before February, and they all did. So that got us through until, right now, and I'm not sure what's going to happen right now. I mean, we just got done paying bills, and it's just myself working there, and we're just kind of in dire straits right now. So we are going to have a board meeting on next Thursday to talk about it. We pretty much could, we just want to break even. We're not trying to make any money at all. It's a non-for-profit, and I would like to ask for, $5,000.
That's what I'm pushing on. Give us a number.
Yeah. Because we didn't get anything for 2013. And the majority of the people that do come in are from the city of Dickinson.
Okay, thank you.
Is that all?
Thanks, Ms. Marasco.
Okay.
Okay, next agenda item is Stark County Victim Witness Program. I don't think we have anybody here.
Mr. Chairman. I'm not here to speak on behalf of the Victim Witness Program, but I believe there is a letter in your packet from Linda Pressler stating that she couldn't be there. I understand Ms. Grant could not be here either, but just would like to speak in favor of the subsidy. Municipal court does use this program quite extensively. And they are a big help to Ms. Grant and our municipal prosecution when we do have victim witness issues, in coordinating with those people and allowing for restitution when we do have offenses that require that. And I believe that's
So
all I
you're
have
saying
to
it
say
is
on
an
that.
actively used program?
It is. It's quite actively used by city staff.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Sometimes we don't hear those things. Anybody else have questions that maybe Mr. Colling can answer regarding this program? The request is for $15,000, which I think is what this request was last year. Okay. We will move on then. Oh, okay. Great, let's do that. Yes, welcome and thanks for coming in a little bit early.
Thank you. Thanks for calling me. I'm sorry I didn't come. I just left straight from work straight over here. So
That's okay.
sorry for the attire.
That's
So
okay.
I am Christy Pechtel, and I'm the executive for Arts on the Prairie. And I am so thankful to be here, and I'm glad that I could come in early. So thank you, commissioners, and everyone else for having us here today. On behalf of Arts on the Prairie, we have received in the past a subsidy of $8,000, and I'm here to request the same again for the upcoming 2014 year. Arts on the Prairie is just really experiencing a lot of fun with the influx of people coming into Dickinson. It has been just a great experience for us. And last night we had our very first bandshell concert for the 2013 series. I stopped counting, over 200 people because I was so busy running everywhere. But for our opening night, kicking off the season, and there were so many new faces there. So our hats are off to Dickinson Park and Rec, because what an amazing job they did. I know it's a big Band-Aid and it's not the full refurbish of what they did at the bandshell, but it is beautiful. And we had so much pride, those of us who were there every week, every year, year after year. It was great to walk up there and say, look what they did. It is just beautiful. So if you get a chance to go up to the bandshell and check it out, it's just wonderful. It was fun to see all the kids last night running wild and the animals having fun, and the music, of course, was great. So in the past, you have also provided us with office space, which has been greatly used. We keep all of our storage in there, all of our old files and everything are kept there. So I would also like to ask that we continue the use of that space. And I'm looking forward to a great 2013-14 year. We have continued with our Missoula Children's Theater. That will be coming up in July. And then we'll be looking forward in January again to kicking off our fundraiser of Dickinson's Got Talent.
Great.
Do you have any questions for me?
Yes.
Ms. Beck,
Yes.
just
Yes.
two.
Sure.
Yesterday, my son and I were going to play Frisbee golf, and so we went up to the facilities to play at Rocky Butte Park and pulled in and noticed the tremendous turnout that you had. It was amazing. You couldn't find a parking place. So
That's what I'm talking about, yeah.
we went somewhere else to play Frisbee golf, but I'm
Oh,
here
you
to
did?
say that it was great because of the turnout. That was wonderful to see. I hadn't realized it was your first evening.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to address your comment about office space. We are currently building our Public Works building. It is under construction as we speak. We plan to move into that in a year.
Okay.
But that also means we're going to divest ourselves of the current building.
I've
And I
heard
think
some
you've been,
rumors.
yeah, I think you've been told.
Well, I didn't know exactly the direction, and I didn't know the timeline, but I had been told that that's a possibility, that we will not have that office space.
That is correct, yeah.
So, and then I also heard that there might be something available at the teen center for us, maybe. I don't know where that is at either, but I'm not sure if you have a little place that you can, a little corner you could tuck us in. But if you do, I would love it.
And yeah, I'd certainly encourage you to approach Mr. Kramer at
Okay.
Park and Recs to find out if they do have
You
some
know, good
space for
idea,
you.
good idea. So, thanks. And what is the timeline? Do we have a time that we need to be out of there by, or?
We hope that we're moving into the Public Works building next year, actually around this time.
Okay.
It could be a little bit later than that, but we'll then start the sales process of those buildings probably a little prior to us vacating. So I can't tell you exactly when that'll happen, but I would guess it'll happen in third quarter, fourth quarter of 2014,
Probably before I see you, maybe next year.
probably.
Okay, sure.
Ms. Bechtel, you probably realize that you're on TV right now, so it is a good chance for you to pitch the Tuesday night affair.
Oh.
Let everybody know
Great idea.
when,
You know.
what is the program.
Yep. Arts on the Prairie has the 2013 concert series over at the Phil Patterson Memorial Band Show, which is right along Fairway Street if you're going along 9th Street East, just right up the hill. We host a series of 9 concerts every Tuesday night. They are free to the public, and everybody is welcome to join. It is the perfect place to bring your family on a beautiful Tuesday evening. The concerts start at 7. They usually go about an hour and a half long. sometimes a little bit longer if the music's really kicking. And I just can't express enough what a fun night it is for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're old or young. If you have pets, bring them up there. It's just been a great time for everyone.
What about seating and refreshments and those kinds of things?
Yep. We do not have seating, so you would need to bring your lawn chair. A lot of people will bring a blanket. They'll like to bring their picnic along with them. But the Relay for Life team has always provided concessions for us, and they've continued this year. So if you're hungry, they provide a great meal, homemade good bars that are just to die for. So every Tuesday night, and all of the proceeds for that goes toward the Relay for Life team. So each week, bring your chairs and your kids and have a good time.
Great. Tuesday evenings at 7 o'clock.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yep. And
Christie, I'm borderline on whether to help approve this $8,000.
Okay.
The only thing you could tell me that would sway my vote is that Commissioner Altman does not get paid for any judging.
Commissioner Altman's does not get anything monetarily from Arts on the Prairie.
And
If anything, he gets a lot of
We got a
slack.
quorum then.
And if anything, Carson, I think if Christie's missing anything on the boat, she probably asked for too little for money, and it
Simply
would,
because I have to put up with Commissioner Altman's. I think I should
Exactly.
increase that. No. And, I guess and along with that, and I'm sure you'll be hearing a little bit more about this from Rayanne, but there is a Dickinson Arts movement that is being formed right now because we have all of these incredible programs, Alive at 5, The Odd Fellows, Sneak Peek Productions. There's so many different arts organizations. We're all trying to pool our resources together and creating the Dickinson Arts movement. So hopefully we're going to see a little bit more of that on the map in the future months to come too. So.
And the good thing from the public comments are that these are free events, that you just come and enjoy them.
Yep.
And with the new Memorial Park going up there too,
Yeah.
that's gonna, and I hear all this, most of us that live around that area, we have free entertainment at home. We don't even have to go to it.
Sure thing. Next week, Tuesday, will be the Spirit of the West karaoke competition. So if anybody is interested, you guys can come up and compete in the contest. I will be a judge. I won't be too hard on you. So thank you for having me today.
Christie,
Thank
just
you.
one more suggestion. This commission that you guys are putting together, the Arts Coalition, please keep in mind that the downtown redevelopment process, we'd like to keep you involved in that. Depending upon where we go and how that turns out, there may be a great role that you could play or that group could play.
Certainly,
In
we
the
can
downtown.
absolutely do some networking there. That's great. So thank you.
Thank you for what you do.
Yep. Have a great afternoon, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Okay, I don't see any of our other presenters, so why don't we, let's just take a 5-minute break and be right back here. Special meeting back to order. Hearing from entities that are requesting subsidies in our 2014 budgeting process. Next on our agenda, we have the Dickinson Churches United for the Homeless, to be represented by Dr. Dale Hansen. Dr. Hansen, if you're ready? Yep. Great.
My name is Dale Hansen, and I'm here today representing the Dickinson Churches United for the Homeless. Our current president, Pastor Ron Dizelle, is out of town, so he's asked me to step in and represent him today. Hopefully you should have all received a copy of the application that Ron sent out requesting the city to fund our organization with a grant of $5,000. You should also have a copy of our financial statement. We're asking the city for this money because we recently hired a person to be our part-time director to oversee the work of sheltering the churches during the winter and to promote the program during the summer months. During this first year of operation, we found that there was just too much work for Ron to do. who not only served as the president, but also as the director. He said he spent approximately 20 hours a week, plus his other duties as a pastor and educator at Hope Christian School. He can't continue to do that. We have budgeted $12,000 for the director position. At the present time, we have about $12,000. But that is because we received a $5,000 gift from someone out of state who had heard about Dickinson Churches United for the Homeless and was impressed with what we are doing. We cannot count on that happening again. We will continue to receive all our money from private donations and from the churches. We are requesting this money because we feel we are doing a service for the city of Dickinson. Hopefully, by taking on this project, we are taking away a burden from your very busy agenda. By your financial participation, it shows the city is involved and is concerned about the homeless issue. If I'm not mistaken, the city gave the Homeless Coalition $2,500 last year. This year, they will not be requesting money as they are working closely with our organization. Also, if the population projections turn out to be true, we are going to have even a bigger problem with homeless people requiring even more money in the future. Dickinson Churches United for the Homeless does not want to get in a situation where we're totally out of money. I don't think that would happen because our churches would find a way to keep us funded. As we continue down the road, we will continue to develop our fundraising. Be assured that we're going to be good stewards of any money that we receive. We are working now to make the program better. We plan to offer shelter this coming year from November through March for this coming season. At the present time, we believe our main expenses will be purchasing an umbrella insurance policy for our board members, for our volunteers, and for our guests, and for our church consuls. We also want to provide some vouchers for showers and for haircuts, and also to provide some food. We will have expenses for operating the bus to transfer guests to and from the shelter. I guess our long-term goal is to have a permanent homeless shelter here in Dickinson at some time. But we know that our churches are always going to have to be involved. So I'm open for any questions.
Questions for Dr. Hanson? I have a couple. I know last year is the first year that you activated this program. And I think as the year went on, you had more participants, more homeless that used the service. Looking forward to next year, what are you anticipating for numbers? What do you think you're going to see next January?
Well, we're still going to continue to limit the number of guests to 15 a night. But the reason we didn't have those numbers last year is that we got so late. When you don't start the homeless shelter till February and March, a lot of them had left town, found other places to stay. And so if we started early and do a little more promotion, which we hadn't done, I'm sure we're going to see much bigger numbers. But that remains to be seen.
Okay, the other question I have is, do you think there's a place in United Way for your organization? Have you talked to them about some possible financial participation?
Not that I know of, but it's probably a good idea.
Somebody here may know more about that than I do, but it seems to me to be a good fit.
That would be a good fit, and I can mention that at our next, board meeting.
Okay.
It's all our money right now has just come from private individuals, and churches have been good and stepped up and given us money.
Sure.
And I'm sure they'll continue to do it, but it's nice to have more community involvement to show that
Did you happen to see the editorial in this morning's Bismarck Tribune about the homeless situation in North Dakota?
No, I didn't.
You should all try to take a look at that. It was an editorial, like I say, and talking about the growing issue that we have in North Dakota and compared us to adjacent states of South Dakota and Montana. It was an interesting article. Any other questions?
No.
The request is for $5,000. And thank you for your presentation, and thanks for the work you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have the Western Wellness Foundation. I see Chris Fear in the audience. Mrs. Fear.
Thank you very much, Commissioners, for having us here. My name is Chris Fair. I'm Director of Western Wellness Foundation and the Best Friends Mentoring Program. This is Hillary Hendricks. She, as you may remember, came here as a VISTA volunteer and decided to stay in Dickinson, so we're very happy to have her working with us. Thank you for taking the time to hear about Best Friends and then to consider our request for funding for the coming year. And I also want to thank you for the $5,000 allocation that you are giving us out of this year's budget. We really appreciate that, and that will provide mentoring services for 6 at-risk children in Dickinson. Those 6 children were each matched with a trained volunteer mentor who provided social skills, training, companionship, role modeling, some homework help, and friendship. Besides the 6 kids that your contribution sponsored, we worked with an additional 214 children last year. At this point, we're halfway through the calendar year, 2013. We're projecting a shortfall of about $20,000, not counting, that doesn't count the funding we already know about. We're projecting for 2014 probably $50,000 shortfall. So to deal with that shortfall, the board made the decision to temporarily suspend our tutoring services for the calendar year for 2013. One of our full-time program coordinators moved out of state at the end of 2012, and we did not replace that position in order to be able to continue services for this year, for 2013. That means that more than 150 children that we were working with in 2012 are not receiving tutoring or mentoring services this year through our program. The vast majority of these children are in the elementary schools in the 2 Dickinson school systems. So that suspension of that program brings us to 51 matches this calendar year so far. And all of those matches are managed by one program coordinator. And we have a list of about 20 or so children who are waiting for a mentor, but we also have a list of volunteers who are waiting to be mentors, which is our good news. But our staff has shrunk to about half the size of what we had 2 years ago. We did receive notice that we're receiving a $20,000 grant from United Way for this coming year, which will really help us. We're continuing to seek grants and partnerships. However, we all know about the national recession and the slow recovery that we're going through, and that has diverted attention away from social programs, particularly mentoring, but has stressed many of the private grantors as well, not just the government. By investing in a prevention program such as the Best Friends Mentoring Program, that will serve the city and the community well into the future. More than 94% of the children in our program improve their academic competency, their behavior, attitude, and social skills in the 1 year that they are matched with a mentor. About 99% of the youth who have been served by our program have graduated from high school. When youth don't graduate from high school, they earn less money, and they're 8 times more likely to end up in prison. Mentoring helps to prevent these youth from becoming negative statistics. So we are seeing an increase in the demand for mentoring services. We have made a number of cuts and staff reassignments over the past year. We have less funding, and we have a 130% increase in the demand for services as you see on that handout. We're requesting a city investment in our youth to ensure that mentoring services continue and that we can prevent some of the educational and economic challenges. Sponsoring 25 children for mentoring will help their future success and will be a future impact that you can be proud of. And it will pay big dividends in our community's future. So I would be happy to answer any questions that you have for me today.
Mr. Chair, Mrs. Fair, I'm trying to think of the history on your organization and so on, and with this program. Has it been 3 years now that we've provided subsidy through this program, Mr. Kessler?
I believe that's right.
Okay.
That
And-
sounds right.
And prior to that, you were requesting funds from another program that we're at. I remember the meeting,
Southwest Grant was a,
Southwest Grant.
right.
You were there, I was there, Commissioner Jackson was there, and we discussed this organization, Western Wellness Best Friends Program at that time, and we felt that moving to this subsidy, we would be able to accommodate the amount of your requests better than where we were with the Southwest Grant. So I see in the last 3 years that we've been at 5,000, correct? Even though you
Yes.
requested 10 the prior years and so on.
Mhm.
And, you know, I remember that meeting that was why we wanted you to come through this program. And I see you've come through with a request of 25,000. So I just wanted to let the rest of the board know the history of why you're here and why your request is larger than the previous years.
One of the things I don't know if you've noticed, maybe have not noticed, but we've done some different things with our fundraisers so that we're able to raise more money. We've just done a few different things, and those are turning around pretty well for us. So that has been good, although, of course, it's not enough, but, you know, you just keep working on it. So we are gradually, our fundraisers are catching on more and more, and we are able to earn more money, which enables us to mentor more children.
Chris, you have quite a few fundraisers, so you work very
Yes.
hard at that, too.
Yeah, we have 3 major sort of signature events, and then we have a couple others that are a little less, but they still earn, you know, a nice amount of money for us. But we do depend on the community for volunteers to be able to run those events too, and for the community for people to come to them.
As school board president and
Yes.
the increasing our enrollment, do you see more and more that you're going to need more help and more volunteers?
Yeah, well, the needs in our Best Friends program are increasing. Well, I should say the enrollment, the requests are increasing, but the families and the children are having greater needs than what we've served in the past. So our volunteers need a little bit extra training sometimes, just to be able to deal with and understand the types of needs. We've never had to deal with, say, homeless children before like the last couple years. And now we train all of our volunteers on what might that be like if you were a child and not knowing where you're going to sleep, or you're sleeping in the same house with 2 other families, or you're in a camper and everybody's in the camper. How do you get your homework done? How do you live in that situation? And so we're trying to train our volunteers to be understanding and compassionate and able to support the child through a really stressful situation until they get on their feet here. And many of them do get on their feet, and it works well. But the stress that families experience, you see it a lot in the children. So that's what we're trying to work with them too, because we'd like to have all the children who come here be able to graduate from high school. If they're not here, they're somewhere else. And our statistics show that pretty much everybody who has been through our program has graduated from high school. Those are pretty good statistics. It says a lot about our community.
Good job. Thank you.
Well, I think the organization is a great organization, and just, again, for those who are watching us at this meeting, put a perspective on it, your request of $25,000 with respect to your total budget, what's your total budget roughly 200,000.
Roughly 200,000, yes.
So this is something just over 10%.
Right. And our budget fluctuates, as I'm sure you probably understand. If we don't have the money, of course, it won't be a $200,000 budget. This year, we're at 89,000. And well, you also see we've cut out a program and cut services to 150 kids. So that's how our budget will have to work.
Ms. Fair, are there any more matching grants out there that you guys participate in? I think you would get some
Yes.
matchers. Are those all gone?
Well, they come up few and far between, so and Hillary and I are constantly researching all those grant sites. If we find something that we think will work, and sometimes it's just a matter of a motion from the commission or from Stark County saying that they approve of the program, as an example. Sometimes it's just showing that we have an in-kind donation of rent. So we really scour those sites to see what is it that we can come up with. Sometimes it's funding. And, you know, if we can show that we have a substantial amount of funding from one group, as an example, one of the oil companies asks for, that I applied for a grant, they wanted to know what was the local investment in cash. So they don't want to come in and fund an entire program, but if I could show that we had money coming in, which we can show, as you can see by the form, the application form, we were able to get a little bit more money from that company, as opposed to asking them to fund the entire program and we don't have any other money coming in, or we're not trying to help ourselves.
Thank you.
And again, for those who are listening to us right now, you would welcome individual donations to the program.
Yes, we do. As a matter of fact, we just got a really nice donation. A gentleman called the other day and asked if he could provide scholarships. We do provide a scholarship for our volunteers if they're going on to higher education. And he said, could I give you some money for that, because I think it's a great thing. And so he funded 4 scholarships, which was really nice. So anyone who has an inkling or an interest, we certainly would welcome that. Don't turn away any money.
Any more questions for Mrs. Fair? Thank you.
Well, thank you for your time, and I think you have a very difficult job because the needs in our community are increasing, as you know. So I thank you for the work that you do for everybody.
Thank you.
Okay. It looks like we're going to be pausing again here until our next presenter arrives. So again, we'll do about a 5-minute recess here. In the meeting of the subsidy requests for the 2014 budget, the City of Dickinson, and next on our agenda is the Domestic Violence and Rape Crisis Center. Darrianne Johnson. Thank you for being here.
I noticed that Mayor Johnson's not here, so I'll say good afternoon, Commissioners. The Domestic Violence and Rape Crisis Center in Dickinson provides shelter and services to victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and homeless families in the 8-county area, and that is in all of southwest North Dakota. In the past, the cities and counties in this area have been supportive both with encouragement and funds. This year, we're asking the City of Dickinson for $15,000. With the influx of people into our state, especially our area and the northwest areas, we are dealing with an increase in workload without an increase in personnel. Our agency is serving more clients with increasingly complex issues. The diversity of people is making our job more difficult as well. We've had to utilize interpreters from the high school, DSU, and the Ukrainian Cultural Institute in order to help families in crisis. Excuse me. We've had to become very creative in utilizing technology. One resource we have used is a language app that was downloaded onto an iPad and converts the native language into English or vice versa. Although it's a great resource, it removes some of the interpersonal communication, and we fear that something might be lost in translation. In Dickinson at this time, when rent is $1,500 to $3,600 to rent an apartment, it's impossible for a single mother with children to support her and her family. The lack of affordable housing causes many families to remain in situations where there is violence and sexual abuse just so they have someplace to live. The rising costs of daycare, food, gas, and daily necessities make it impossible for a family to survive, much less transition out of the shelter into their own safe home. The reality is that most women want their children to have a home to call their own, so they will remain and endure an unsafe situation in order to make that happen for their kids. Drug and alcohol abuse is a common theme in the cases that we deal with. In the first 6 months of 2013, of the 122 cases that we've dealt with, 66% of our clients or their abusers have addiction issues. Our resources for dealing with these issues are very few. If someone requires services, it usually means going to Bismarck, as the services we have here are either limited or we can't get them into the treatment centers. We are seeing an increase in the severity of injuries in many of these cases. Some of this can be attributed to drug and alcohol abuse, and some to the influx and diversity of people moving into our area. The lethality of cases is also a factor. With so many people moving in, the thoughts and attitudes of these people are very different. Many are not scared of law enforcement and therefore choose to deliberately disobey laws as we know them. Mental health issues are also increasingly prevalent, and 33% of our clients or their abusers suffered from mental health issues in the cases that we have dealt with in 2013. Again, we have limited resources to help these people, and most of the time, they must be taken to Bismarck or Jamestown to receive help. All of these issues are leading to burnout and loss of staff. It seems as though our problems are becoming larger, our resources fewer. Our agency collaborates with many other agencies in the A County area to best serve our clients, and we try to be very creative, but there are many times where there are no solutions. DVRCC has been working on finding more space for over a year. We have been unsuccessful to date. With very controlled spending, we have some money in reserve should this become a possibility. At this time, we are looking to expand our current location, but have many hurdles to get over before that becomes a reality. We are expecting across the board 5% reductions in our state and federal grants, and we need your help now more than ever.
Thank you. Questions for Ms. Johnson?
Ms. Johnson, how many employees do you have?
We have 4 full-time daytime staff, and then we have a house parent that does our overnights.
The unfortunate thing in this is that your story is about the third or fourth of identical that we've heard today, and it's frustrating. It's the alcohol, it's the drugs, it's the abuse. I mean, we heard it from Sunrise Youth Center, we heard it from Southwest Community Service, our county victim, and so on. So, when you talk about leading to burnout and loss of staff, it's got to be frustrating.
It's very frustrating. It's also the lack of resources without a mental health unit, without addiction services here, with the transition when people do leave their jobs. It's so hard to continue to do what we've always done.
Ariane, I'm curious, you mentioned that you might try to find a new location or expand the current location.
Mm-hmm.
I believe you can handle 18?
18 people.
Right. Is that expansion including office space or simply expanding the amount of clientele that you can service?
That would be office space as well as space for additional clients.
Okay.
So pursuing that a little bit more, describe the kind of space you would be looking for.
As far as office or completely the entire project?
Well, the entire project.
Okay. We are
What would be ideal, If
Ideally, we would like to add 4 bedrooms, and we would like to allow families to have their own rooms. Right now, we have 4 bedrooms, and so if we house 18 people, it's very possible that families have to live with other families. And so our dream is so that each family could have their own room. So we would have 8 rooms to accommodate 8 families.
Darien, do the people stay there overnight and then they leave during the day? They're there all the time?
Many, I would say about 95% of the women that are in the shelter now all have jobs. So they live there, they do whatever anybody else does. They go to work, they take their kids to school, to daycare, all of the same things that we do. So it's their home.
How long are they allowed to stay?
Up to 2 years.
2 years?
And we're finding that the lengths of stay are very much longer than they ever have been in the past.
Is that because they can't find housing elsewhere?
It's because they can't afford housing elsewhere. And can't find it both, but
They can't find it because it's not affordable.
that too.
So last year, you experienced many days where you were at capacity. Has that changed at all in 2013?
It has changed for the first 6 months. Right now we have 11 people in the shelter. My opinion, my thought on that is that women aren't coming to us because they know that if they leave, their only option then is to stay long-term in the shelter or leave the state. Because along with our funding being cut, I can tell you that many of the services that we refer them to have also been cut. So daycare funding's been cut and all of the services that we hook them up with.
In one of your sentences, you have, many are not scared of law enforcement. Are you talking about the abuser?
Yes.
Okay. I would hope so.
Of the spousal abuse that you're seeing and the ones that you're taking in, what percentage of them actually contact the police department and report the spousal abuse?
Quite a few. Most of the women, if
So they
they
aren't just
actually,
leaving and letting it rest.
most of the women, if they make the move to actually leave, will definitely have law enforcement involved.
If they haven't reported to the police, do you encourage them to?
Mhm. We do. But a lot of times there are reasons why that's not a safe thing for them to do.
Thank you.
As staff, are you worried about your protection?
Absolutely. I've been there for 11 years, and we have had 2 instances at the courthouse where the abusers have been dangerous enough that we have felt at fear for our own safety.
More questions? I'm thinking about some of the peripheral topics that you brought up with lack of mental health facilities, that type of thing. Is there anything in that regard that we can help with? Thinking about politically or bureaucratically, or
You know,
I mean,
the only-
that's something that the whole community, I know, is
Mhm.
concerned about. And
the only thing that makes sense in my head is that we need a mental health unit here, because the process for people that have mental health issues, I'm not sure if you're aware of what the process is, but if they're transported to a facility, whether it be Bismarck or Jamestown, there has to be a transport order, and they're held in the jail until they can be transported. And that's not necessarily the best situation for someone with mental health issues to be in. I understand it's the process that there needs to be, but it makes it very difficult.
okay, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And we will again recess. We will again reconvene our first budget meeting for the 2014 budget and hearing subsidy requests. And we have before us Colleen Rudakowski with Public Transit.
Good afternoon, everyone. And as you mentioned, I'm Colleen Rudakowski, the Director of Elder Care Public Transit. I have two people with me today. To my right is Teresa Kuntz. She was hired just a few months back as our Public Transit Coordinator. That position was vacant well over 2 years, so we are pleased to have it filled with Teresa. And to her right is Douglas Walker, and Douglas does our projects, special projects part-time at Public Transit. And I'm glad they were able to join me today. You received our packet last week, our information with our subsidy application. We are increasing our request to up $60,000, and the first is under the city sales tax. It's an increase of $25,000, and the taxi subsidy an increase of $35,000. And basically, this is going to be used to assist us with salaries, operating expenses, vehicle costs, and then also a special request this year is a 50% on an administrative assistant for the executive director, which would be me. I haven't had a full-time staff person assisting me, and I have found actually this last year and a half has been challenging in the work environment, not having a steady support person to assist the workload of the environment. So that is an addition. In the past, we have had down the public transit coordinator, which we never had filled until this past year. I do want to draw your attention to the public transit 92,005 and elder care meal of 67.5. That's just the numbers we put in our budget, but I do want to put on the record that we do take the city sales tax and use it as needed between both programs. We do try to do the 50-50, but sometimes it might be needed in another program more than the other to balance our budget or to help expenses, especially with our match dollars that we need with DOT. So I just wanted to draw that to your attention, but those are numbers that we would throw into the budget. And the community subsidy, as far as the meal program, I'm really pleased to tell you that we did add a new meal site last year, and that's down in what the community needs the subsidy will serve. Sunset Senior Center has a meal program there, and we do meals 3 times a week, and we're really excited about adding a 4th location in Dickinson. We have 21 meals overall with the meal program, as well as the home delivered meals that we deliver to the shut-in, the elderly who are homebound and shut in, so that we can provide them with that nutritional meal. Rimrock Trail Rails is no longer in our community. They were forced to close down. We are now operating one way. When we are doing rides to and from Bismarck, we will do a one-way ticket or one-way trip cost of $37.50, which is half of the $75 pre-scheduled rate. That's something that we worked a little bit with DOT on to assist our community out here. We really need to start advertising it a little bit more. I think we've only utilized it a couple times. There are other transit providers in our community, but public transit is the only one here in Dickinson that provides the wheelchair lift capability for the elderly and disabled, as well as we're the only QSP provider for Medicaid, so that we can offer rides to ridership who have Medicaid. The budget, just gave you an updated budget. This is just a little bit more fine-tuned from the one that you received last week. It's not approved by our board yet. They were planning to do their budgets in September. And we also have not received funding notice starting for July yet for the DOT. DOT has not given out grant monies yet. We've made application, so we do not know, and that's the biggest chunk of our budget is that DOT funding, as well as we're so grateful for the City of Dickinson funding. But that will make a big difference in our budget once we know those numbers. Basically, I just made some tweaking from last week's where I added that new position, put about a 5% increase in salaries, made some changes to the insurance because Blue Cross Blue Shield has upped their single premium policies by about $50 a person, impacts us about $8,000 a year. And let's see, what else did I do? Made a little bit of increases with we have a new route match software that we were converted to in December. It's going to cost us more money to operate this new software. It's been challenging, but once we get it fine-tuned and it's working efficiently and effectively for us, we'll be able to work much, much better. And then the audit fees I had to increase along with the communications for the software, and we might end up having to do an A133 audit, which is just when you go over 500,000 a year of money from the federal government, it's just a stronger, deeper audit. It's probably 3 to 4 times more costly than what we usually do with our yearly audit. So those are the changes I want to draw to your attention. And then Doug did prepare and hand it out for you, a little recap from this past year into where we are now. I apologize, it's just been so busy that I didn't come in February to give you a report on public transit. So what I'd like to do today, because our minutes are tight for this presentation for the subsidy, Doug put together that report, he handed it out to you, and I'd like to just maybe at a later date come back and give you a report more on how overall public transit is doing.
Could we, if I could interrupt, could we get you to back up a little bit?
Sure.
And tell us the 3 numbers. We have it in front of us here, but for the public, the request really amounts to 3 different dollar pieces. Tell us what those are.
Okay.
And then what it was last year.
Okay.
For each item, if you could, just lay that out for everybody.
Okay. This year, we're asking for a total of 160,000 sales tax dollars to subsidize public transit. Last year, or this current year, we are receiving $135,000. It's an increase of $25,000. This city sales tax of $160,000 request funds public transit and elder care meal program. And it's coming from the city sales tax of I believe it's 0.75% for elder programs. The second dollar amount we're talking about is a taxi subsidy. And the taxi subsidy is strictly for public transit. This year, for the 2014 budget, we're requesting $85,000. And last year we received, or this current 2013 year, we received $50,000, and that's an increase of $35,000. Is that what you're looking for?
That's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. One of the things, and I think both public transit and the taxi service are a great plus for our community. I think you guys are doing a great job. When we look at sales tax increases, what we're seeing so far is that sales tax revenues are probably going to be flat this year. They're probably going to be, when I say flat, we will probably not see an increase, and that's only based on 5 months, I think. So
Okay.
it could change, but
Okay.
right now it looks like we will not see an increase in that revenue. I don't think anybody can disagree with the importance of the programs you're talking about today. But what happens when the money's not there to fund what's requested?
You're asking me that question?
I'm asking you that question.
Fundraising. I think we would have to try to make the budget balance with fundraising. If you look at our budget, we're not for profit in the community. Our budget, just based on what I gave you here, has a net profit of $10,000, which isn't very much money. Our payroll right now is about averaging $35,000 to $38,000 every 2 weeks. So it's a big operation, and I believe if you give us the flat amount and we're short that $60,000, it would have to go probably towards fundraising, I believe. I mean, Sean, do you have another suggestion?
Well, I have a question, I guess. When we went down the road, when elder care, we appreciated so much your willingness to take on the on-demand service about, 4 years ago?
Mm-hmm. I'd say about that.
We now are in a much different position where there's several different providers in the on-demand side. And does that mean that there's an opportunity for you to lower your position in the on-demand rides and focus more on the remainder of your mission?
If I understand that correctly, I think you're asking, like, before we took on taxi about 4 years ago, taxi services on demand service where you call right now for a ride, and we can respond at a higher fare. Is go back to just pre-scheduled service and have no on demand, and because there's other businesses in the community providing that service, they would be picking up all the on demand.
Correct.
As I believe what Sean's looking at. If that's something, I think what we're seeing right now, well, we'd have to make sure that the services that are in our community right now are providing and open consistently to provide that service for the on-demand needs. And I think we'd have to do some research and maybe some talks and bring them to the table. Because, from what I'm hearing, sometimes some of the businesses are open and sometimes they're not. And I think you want to make sure that the taxi services, the entities that are open today remain open for the amount of hours that they need to provide that service. Because the elderly and some of the other people that are going to need that, they need to go to work if they know they make that phone call. So if that's something that we would do, we'd have to work close with the DOT and talk about that, about the pre-scheduled, about going back to a quote pre-scheduled service. And possibly if we go back to that, would be pulling back. I would suggest nights and weekends might be affected by that, because most of our rides that are pre-scheduled are during the day for medical work. Our work rides did go up, and we just went through the report briefly. I think is at 37%. We used to have medical rides as the highest type of ride that we give, and now work was creeping up in the last year. Now I think it's 37 and 32, Doug. Did I remember it right? 32% are medical and 37% are work related. So we're getting more and more people to work. So if I would entertain that with the DOT, Sean.
Another question, knowing that statistic now is, and you've heard me say this to you privately, is at what point does Dickinson look at a fixed route system, since work is becoming a much more prevalent part of your service levels?
The fixed route, actually, it's something I wanted to do right when I got this job 5 years ago. And I started to do some research. Then when Doug Walker came on board, I actually gave him all my files of information. We've done our research on it. In order to do that, what we hear from DOT is we need I requested a $100,000 planning grant from DOT. They're saying we need $150,000 to $200,000 to do it how they would like us to do it is a planning grant. Kind of like what the city has done, where you bring somebody in to do research with your community. We've looked, and I'm sure between me, Teresa, and Doug, we kind of know what we would do. We could put a fixed route together as far as a plan, because we know where the ridership goes. But unfortunately, we need $200,000 from the DOT to sponsor, to do a planning grant, which will take time, and go through that process of what's really needed in the community, who would use it, and go that route. Fixed routes are very costly to run, and because you're going to operate at a lower rate, fare-wise, maybe $1.50, $2 a person, and you're going to do a loop over and over. Now, to complement that, and Sean, I don't know if you know this, but if you put a fixed route together in Dickinson, you are required by the federal government to complement it with paratransit. Paratransit is for the elderly and disabled. So it's not just putting a fixed route in, you have to complement it with a paratransit route at the same time, so that if say you're going past City Hall right now, and within a radius of, I'm not sure the mileage, say it's 3 miles, somebody asked to be picked up in a wheelchair, we'd have to have a way to either deviate or have another service come and pick them up. So the federal government is strict on how you operate that fixed route, and that maybe that's why DOT would like a planning grant, so that before you put it in, that you meet the requirements. I would just like to just start one up from what we know. So
I see, looking at your handouts, that some of the ridership numbers decreased into 2012.
Yes.
What are you seeing into 2013?
So far, Doug, you want to talk on that? Overall, the decrease is some of the elderly have moved out of our area with the oil growth. I mean, we know that has affected our numbers, as well as people who've passed away who have used our service through the kidney dialysis program. And Doug, you want to make a comment maybe about our numbers this year? I know we just went up to 160 the other day. So the actually rides are picking up right now, which is not normal for summer.
Right. They were trending down a little bit, but the last couple of months they're starting to trend back up. Normally our big months are October, November, and December are our biggest travel months. Of course, the weather's turning colder. The ridership, like Colleen has mentioned, some of our older people are moving out of town because they can't afford to live here. And also our KDU, kidney dialysis unit numbers are down, and that just, when people are on dialysis, usually they don't last forever. So we've lost a number of ridership from that. And when you talk about people that you're delivering to kidney dialysis, 3 times a week, so that's 2 rides, so each person is 6 rides times 3. It adds up takes off a number. The taxi service other taxi services have hurt us a little bit because we aren't doing the bar crowd anymore, because people will call for a ride and you send somebody over there to pick them up and they've already taken a ride with somebody else. So we kind of eliminate that. So kind of pulling back a little bit. But also along with the VIX Loud, we're doing a little bit of research on ourselves. Even one page in the handout, you'll see that we're plotting out where our ridership is going and where we're picking them up. We have developed I have developed a survey that we could bring before the board and see if there would be a way that we could get it out to the Dickinson folks and find out who would be interested in using it, where they live, and that would help further where we would be plotting out a route for ridership. Because some of the numbers on the plot, when I looked at the map when we were getting going, I'm going, wow, that isn't where I would be going. In my mind, I think that those big apartments out there on the bypass road would be one, but we haven't had any rides from there. So it's like, fixed route's going to take some communication. Of course, we live in a cold climate, so we're going to have bus stops with shelters of some kind if we're going to expect people to walk there to be picked up. The software that we have invested in does have the capability that it could tie to your smartphone to say that, okay, the bus is running 5 minutes late or 5 minutes early, so you would know when to be at the bus stop. So, any other questions?
Doug, is there a fixed rate that the state will allow you? Can you increase your?
We are the highest rate in the state for public transit. So they're kind of, and we were at a meeting, a coordination meeting a couple of months ago, and boy, did I get beat up on what our rates are now. Because really, when you think about it, public transit is here to be subsidized by the city and by the state and by whoever we can get subsidies for, so that we can help out our older people that are on fixed incomes, Because it doesn't sound like very much. Well, it costs you $4 each way when you're making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year. But when you're on $1,200 a month of fixed income, $8 to go shopping is quite a bit. And if you have to go the same day where we're charging $8, so you're looking at $16 to go shopping, So you're going to have to decide whether or not you buy this item and get a ride there, or do without it, and So it's kind of hard, because I'd like to say, okay, yeah, let's raise it $2. How much more income would that be for us at the end of the road?
I have a question related to the map that you referenced, where it's a good map, and knowing those, I can see where that'd be valuable for you. Can you say, it doesn't tell us on here, what was the time frame?
This was from January 1 through May 20th.
So of 12?
Of 12.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions? How about for Ms. Radikowski? Any questions?
No, you do a good job.
Okay, you do a good job, and it's a good presentation, good information for us to have, and I think that is a good idea to maybe come back later with the
We will.
PowerPoint.
Okay, we will do that. And I do want to thank you. We're very grateful. Our city has gone through quite a bit of growth, and I know the amount of work it takes to do the jobs you guys are doing is a lot. So I just want to thank you on behalf of our staff and our board. We're very grateful for the city of Dickinson, the partnership, and all that you do to make everything work in our town. So,
Thank you much.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, that is the end of our agenda for the day. As I said at the onset of the meeting, we'll take this information now, the presentations and the information provided by these various groups, and use it as we compile our 2014 budget over the summer, which is culminated about in October, correct? Okay.
It has to conclude in October by law.
Mhm. Anything else from anybody? If not, motion to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.